This is the story of my 2,400 kilometre barefoot walk from Melbourne to Brisbane.
Oh, it's day 59. That was an absolute brutal. 42 kilometres. I think it was like 42, 43 degrees today. My body just feels fucking wrecked. My feet are just super sore. And it's pretty heavy dehydration today. I don't drink enough water though. Yeah, starting to feel like a bit of a shell of a human. You know, I just can only think it's just like literally the next moment. Like when I started the journey, I could think like a week ahead or a few days ahead, and now it's just like I can literally just think of putting that one foot in front of the other. I get there, 500 k's to go.
So before we dive into this crazy story of walking halfway across the country, sleeping in toilets, crazy blisters all over my feet, and having the most magical moments from help from the absolute kindness of strangers, let me take you back to the inception of this crazy idea. So, COVID lockdowns having fully set in Melbourne, it was time to pivot and see where life was taking me. So I moved out to a log cabin on the hills of Lake Eildon, a magical spot where I spent lots of time in nature, journaling, having some campfire with some mates, and shooting some creative video pieces with my friends Liz and James. Go check them out. I uploaded them to YouTube a few days ago. They are pretty cool. So during this time, I was posing the question to myself, what's next? Then one morning, I had a dream of walking from Melbourne to Brisbane and just knew that it was it. So I set myself the challenge to walk from Melbourne to Brisbane, barefoot, unassisted. I had to walk every step of the way, no lifts whatsoever. I can't pay for accommodation. I had to sleep on a piece of tarp, and I had to walk a full marathon every single day. So 3 weeks later, after a bit of planning and doing a few 30-kilometre barefoot walks, I said goodbye to my van, had a last cooked dinner with the lads, and went to meet Mr. Bad for a pre-walk interview.
Alright, here we are. Beginning of a journey. Alright, now tell us a little bit about what you're doing here.
So, literally going to be starting in about 20 minutes time.
Yeah.
I'm going to be walking 3,000 kilometres from Flinders Street Station all the way to Brisbane Square. So all the way along the coast. I'm going to be doing it barefoot, unassisted, with a backpack. And let's see if we can achieve 75 marathons in 75 days bare feet.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
So now just tell everyone about why you're doing this, because I've questioned that myself and I can't figure it out.
Gotcha. So I've got probably like a twofold reason. Firstly, I think I get the most enjoyment pushing myself on a physical aspect.
Yeah.
And like I get the most like sense of achievement and success from that specific aspect. So this for me is where, yes, it's a solo journey, but a lot of times where I've come across against others physically, I haven't really pushed myself to my limits. And so this is something just so impossible. I've never really done anything endurance before either. So it's sort of like an initiation for me, I guess. And a sense of accomplishment in that area. And then on the other aspect, coming into being a full-time athlete in more of an artistic, crazy, parkour, daredevil sort of way, I want to make a statement. Really, instead of like working my way into it, like I've built all these skills over the last 10 years, working different companies, doing different things. And so this is me just being like, all right, I know I'm shifting something, but I'm bringing all of these other skills with me, and I'm fucking making a big marketing move and just punching myself into the space.
Beautiful. Sounds amazing. Tell everyone how long you're doing this and how many kilometers a day you're going to be doing.
So the aim is to do a marathon, so that's 42 kilometers a day. So we're going to see how these bare feet go. Like a few sections along the beach are going to be easy, but when I go to gravel and freaking mountainous country, we're going to see how they hold up.
Amazing. All right, so Dom, do you want to show us what you're taking with you? How are you going to do this?
Yes. So I've got a basic 70-litre backpack. Pretty much just got most of the weight, 25 kilos, is camera gear, a few toiletries. I've got a sleeping bag and a piece of tarp, and then that's pretty much in terms of the basics. And then this is a big part of the journey as well. So Mr. Bad is sponsoring me on this shit. So I have number one, the good old cap, keep the sun off my head, which is going to be a lot of. Got some amazing bamboo socks, and this is, obviously I'm going bare feet, so I don't need shoes, but every night I'm going to be wrapping my feet in coconut oil just so then they can not get too blistery and hard, so these are going to keep me safe there. And then we've got the mask to keep me COVID safe. I'm all badass in this mask. And then this part, I've got a clean shirt. That'll on days when I feel like just being fresh. And then this shirt is going to be sort of tying in with this crazy time of we're all in it together. Like, I know I can't reach the end of this goal without support and having fun. So repping the amazing Bad, because these clothes are just super comfortable, which is why I reached out to you, and they fucking last. So, and then everyone's going to be popping their signatures on it. So I'm pretty much bringing everyone with me on this crazy adventure and see what we go to.
That's it, perfect. All right, Dom, so at the end of this 75-day journey, what do you hope to have achieved?
There's a few big things I want to achieve. Like, first, a big thing is just my mindset in doing things that I thought impossible.
Yeah.
Like COVID, I've slowed down, and one of the biggest things that just kept coming, I was like, oh, it's possible to become a sponsored paid athlete. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna get that. So I want just my mindset in terms of that to, achieve something so mammoth that not only just a normal person who, goes to the gym twice a week, but also top end athletes are gonna be like, fuck, that was something.
Yeah.
And so that sense of just being able to dominate and have success in that area of my life, or have that as the leading force of my life, is, I think it'll just kickstart me and give me that level of confidence to just take it wherever I want to go.
Yeah.
And it's really about proving to myself first. Sure, this is going to be fun. Sure, we're going to create a documentary, but it's firstly, I'm just doing it for myself to prove to myself and have as much fun and interact with as many people along the way.
Amazing. Well, good luck. See you in 75 days.
Yes. Thanks for all the gear.
That's it.
Let's fucking do this.
Let's go.
All right. Well, time to head off. Time to get these feet working.
Definitely.
And fucking nervous.
I don't know how you're doing it.
Let's hope I survive. All right, Steve. I was off. With the pre-excitement jitters of embarking on a crazy adventure, I walked out of the streets of Melbourne, out to the beaches of St Kilda, to start my journey along the coast all the way to Brisbane. The first few days, I was in pretty high spirits, and other than nearly being jumped by a group of crooks late one night in Frankston, it was pretty smooth sailing, walking and sleeping on the beaches with relatively warm weather. And then, only 6 days in, and barely 350 kilometers down, my feet literally started to fall off. Blisters had built on the underside of my feet, filling with pus, then popping as I continued to push through the pain. But as gravel and grass got into them, it became like knives stabbing into the bottom of my feet. At this point of the journey, I was just shattered, I think, because the walk had become my entire life. It was everything that I was doing. And at that point, I was just like, I've failed. And I just couldn't get out of that mindset. I just kind of spiraled. And it was at that point that I really, truly thought that I was going to give up. I was like, this is done. But then, after, just giving it some time and realizing, no way am I giving up, it was like, okay, well, I've just got to let go of my pride and my ego and pivot and then keep continuing this journey.
End of day 6, and just stopped in this little town called Flinders, and I had an awesome Thai food after walking about 19 and a half Ks today. But when I woke up this morning, there was just massive blisters. Had like grown up overnight, and so like the 19K today was absolutely excruciating. Like so many times I was just literally just tears pouring down my face in that much pain. But yeah, I just was like, no, I can do this, I can push it. I'm like, it's only day 6, like far out. But I think just the heat that the tar gets to is just so intense. Like it literally just feels like it's melting the bottom of my feet. So I've decided tomorrow to look for a pair of shoes and continue the journey, because otherwise it's just going to get slower and slower, and my feet are already really mangled, and I won't really achieve out of it what I want. So I really want to be able to push myself, and even though I'm pushing myself on a level of like extreme pain, very vulnerable, like my entire body just feels like to touch, I think, because like every time I step it's just like a sharp dagger into my foot, and I can just feel everything like it's raw skin. So yeah, I'll just have a pair of shoes, and then at least I'll be able to really push myself physically in terms of the distance I'm able to travel. And then, you know, further distance I can travel, the more time I get to do, you know, my drone shots and see beautiful parts of Australia and stop for moments without just worrying like I've got to push, which I want to be able to push, but also have those breaks as well and have that time to stretch, because even stretching is just so impossible. Like my feet when I stop just crankle up so much that yeah, it sort of becomes impossible to move around and stretch and all that sort of stuff. So look for a pair of shoes tomorrow, and then hopefully hit it hard over the next few days. Maybe not too hard, just to let the feet like fully repair, because even with the shoes on, it's gonna be still quite tender. And then
Alright, so after the sleep last night, my feet are even in worse shape this morning. Barely bloody hobbling every step, even on flat grounds, just zings of pain up my body. But been pretty lucky. Bit of an overcast day, and I've had a few Ks where I'm able to access the beach, so I don't have to go on tar or gravel road. And I'm heading to the closest town to pick up a set of shoes, as my feet are just done. I just checked, and I've got 190 Ks in the last 5 days. So even though it's a bit disappointing, pretty proud of the effort overall. But yeah, I'm just hobbling my way as best I can to this town, so pick up a pair of shoes, and then I'll just start alternating. I don't want to wear shoes the entire way, but where I have to, and I want to at least get a marathon a day. That's like my biggest goal, and to be able to explore all the cliffs and go over the rugged areas of coastline instead of taking the road. Like I want to take the road as least as possible, but some of these rocky sections, like coming up here, they're just razor sharp. And I mean, I'd be okay if I didn't have a backpack, but with the 20 kilo pack, it just freaking pushes you into the ground and makes balance a lot harder. So slight adjustment, bit disappointing. It took me a few hours last night just to really come to terms with it and just be like, all right, gotta adjust, but gotta keep going along the journey and experiencing all that it has to offer. So onwards we go.
45 kilometres later, I pulled up at Kmart, bought a pair of shoes, and the journey continued. But this was by far the last time that I nearly quit on this endeavour. About 30 of the 74 days, I truly thought I was done. From the pain caused by 4 sets of new shoes, to knee and ankle damage, to sheer physical and mental exhaustion. Here's a few stories of the mental, scary moments of this crazy quest. Firstly, I want to talk about the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. So, upon setting out on this journey, I definitely wanted to support a charity because I knew I could get some attention from this. But I didn't really know which charity support, what kind of like came through me. But after probably about 20 days of being on the road and connecting to the land, I knew, and just talking to friends, I knew that I wanted to support an Indigenous charity. So I reached out to the legendary Jack Wilson, aka the Deadly Ninja Warrior, and he directed me to the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. And after doing a bit of research and the incredible work they do empowering young Indigenous and really just sharing the beautiful sides of their culture, I was like, yep, this is definitely, like, it just aligned in every single way. And over the course of the journey and the finish line, we ended up raising $10,000 for their foundation, which was absolutely incredible. And I got to talk to the founder, and I got a call from a senior elder, as well as going on an Indigenous radio talk show as well, which was just such an honor to be like involved and just learn bits about the culture that you just, you know, it's kind of like being blown up in dust in the history of Australia. But with this documentary as well, I wanted to open up the donations again. So I'm going to be putting a link down in the description and hoping to raise it from, I think it's at about $11,000 or $12,000 all the way up to $25,000 for this incredible foundation. So if you feel called and it's something that connects to you, jump on the link down in the description to donate. So other than my feet completely falling apart and, you know, the tar being so hot that I literally would melt imprints of my foot into the tar, the first like hectic, crazy part of the journey happened along the bottom part of the coast around the bottom part of Victoria. And it was through the part where it was completely burnt. So all the trees, shelters, parks, national parks are all completely burnt. All the trees are still twigs with like the green parts growing on them. And there's just no shelter. And for a period there, it rained for 3 days straight. Bit of hail, bit of rain, bit of hail, non-stop. And so because it was still quite cold, and I only had, you know, one layer of clothing on plus my bag, I couldn't sleep. Like, it was too cold. Like, everything was just puddles. There was no place that was the actual shelter. So for like 3 days in a row, I didn't really sleep. Like, I'd stop at points with my tarp over me and just like stop and get some rest. But then just keep going on. And it was on night, it wasn't on the last night, it was on night 2 where I was quite delusional. It was probably like, you know, midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning, and I'm kind of just like trudging along this road. And I looked up ahead and I saw a Native American. So I used to read these stories as books. Read these books as a child, and they were like my favorite kind of books. And in the state that I was, like, the only way that I can like think of it is that I was like literally between like conscious state and dream state, but both of them were real. And so I saw this Native American stand up with a bow about to shoot me, and it was as real as could be. And I just turned, ran off the road. I'm pelting through sticks, got like a massive gash across my face, was bleeding. And it wasn't until I ran and then I was like, wait, I'm like shaking myself. I think when I got hit by a tree or something, I was just shaking myself, and I was like, wait a second, I'm in Australia. What is happening? But at the same time, it kind of really scared me because I actually ran, like I actually moved and I actually hurt myself from it. And I was like, whoa, like that was hectic. But in the state, I was just, all right, whatever, that happened, kept going. And then a few hours later, it happened again where this like bear, like just again, like in my imagination, just like popped up out of the dark. I think it was as well with my head torch that I had on, because I used it to walk in the dark. Like the reflective state just created like illusions in the delusional state that I was in. And this bear jumped up, and I just like jumped off the road into this like wet ditch. But those moments also was just like, whoa, they were like super scary just because of the reaction that I had. And I was like, well, imagine if I got hurt or broke my leg. So it definitely, like, in the later stages when I was getting to this state, I definitely like tried to control it. But it was absolutely surreal for these both worlds to kind of meld. And I've never had hallucinations so strong that caused such a physical reaction when I was actually walking. The second, like, and this is probably like one of the most, like, in all the part of the journey that was just kind of like these crazy moments happening, like scary moments, all in one, happened along this stretch of coast called 90 Mile Beach, leading into Lake's Entrance. So I remember one evening I set off and I was like, okay, like I had a full bag. It was probably weighing like at least over 50 something kilos, because I had to take water for like the whole stretch of 90 Mile Beach. I could either go inland along like the road, or I could take this long stretch and then it ended in Lake's Entrance. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna do this. So I took that route along the beach. And I remember that first night, I'd been walking for maybe like 5 or 6 hours, and I could see this like lightning storm off in the distance. And then all of a sudden, I was sitting out eating an apple on my tarp, and then all of a sudden, boom, this crazy hailstorm out of nowhere hit me.
Oh, just got slammed by a hailstorm. Check out these little pieces, like freaking little coin-sized pieces of hail. Came belting down. Lucky I was sitting on the piece of tarp at the time and just threw it over myself in the bag. I went to this little hollow, it's like just underneath the shrub. See if I can tie it to some of these ferns and get a bit of shelter happening. Whew, that was intense. Alright.
And luckily the hailstorm only lasted like 20 minutes, and none of my gear got damaged, and I was able just to like huddle under that little piece of tarp that you just saw. And then, like, in the coming hours as I was walking, maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning, I just had the most surreal experience. Like, the rain had stopped, and there was just this most insane lightning storm happening out to sea. So it was, I don't know, maybe like 50 kilometers or whatever it was. I could see it. This crazy lightning storm. And so every now and then when I'm walking, these like jagged bolts just bolt down, and you could actually see them hit the water. And I'm just like, what the heck is, like, just to be able to experience this in a place there was no humans, there was nothing around. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and then I remember at one point just like staring out to sea, just going like, this is insane. And the bolts are just getting faster and faster, and then I just saw this tornado drop out of the sky and then just hit the sea, and I was just like, at this point, I was like, this is insane. Like, it was literally one of those moments where I felt so part of nature. Like, there wasn't I feel like there's a lot of parts of life where you feel like you're on top of the earth, but when all this stuff was happening around me, and I was like, I'd spent, now 25, 30 days on the road, it was just surreal to be a part of like these crazy elements having these mad battles. And so I kept walking along, and later on that night I like lit a little fire. It was like the only night actually that I had a fire, the only night I could be bothered to light a fire. And then in the coming days I realized that I kind of had to make a choice like halfway up 90 Mile Beach, whether I go through the road or I kept continue. But then there was like a river that goes through at Lake's Entrance, and I was like, I should be able to swim through it, like it should be fine. So I kept walking, and then maybe like 2 days later I came across like a sand mine or something, and there was a bundle of workers in there, but I'd run out of water, so I could see like a bit of smoke and stuff, and I was like, oh, there's obviously a factory or something. So I jumped off the beach, and there was only like 3 or 4 workers there, and they were just randomly there for a repair. And I was like, does anyone have water? And one of the guys had water, and he gave me a bottle. And then I was like, oh, I'm going up here, and I'm going to swim across the river at Lake's Entrance. And the guy's like, dude, the current there is hectic. And the other guy's like, at certain times of the year, there's bull sharks and everything. And I was like, oh no, like otherwise it's going to be like, a couple, 200-300 kilometer detour at this stage, because I'm now very close to the end. And I'm like, far out, what do I do? So I jumped into Facebook because I had reception at the time. I jumped into Facebook and just I added myself to like a local community group and started texting in and just saying, what's the go? And everyone was like, don't swim it, don't swim it, don't swim it. Like, impossible. And so then I was like, far out. But then magically, one of the guys in the group was like, look, I've got a boat, I'll come and get you. And so I ended up, it was just like such an amazing moment. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And so I ended up coming along the beach, and the guy picked me up and he took me for a cruise through the mouth, and then just had the most it was such a cool moment. Just like, I never expected to go on this boat journey in the middle of this crazy walk. And then just the most insane sunset to top it off. Like, this whole experience along with 80 Mile Beach was just, like, it literally blew my mind at just being able to, like, see how magical nature is, and how we, like, with the comfort of our daily lives, we forget to just, like, put ourselves in these crazy situations where we just, like, it just blew my mind. It was just so beautiful and so powerful and so just hectic all at the same time. I was just like, wow. And one last story before I share some of the incredible moments with, like, just so much kindness and heart and soul from complete strangers who helped me along this crazy journey. I remember one time, this is like when I was just about to cross into Queensland, and I pulled up outside this like little pub which had like a nice little bit of grass. I was like, I'll be on my mattress for tonight. And I fell asleep, and I was sleeping on my back, right? And I fell asleep, and then I remember just feeling this presence near me, and I was like, what the heck? I remember looking up, and like looking around. I was like, oh, there's nothing there. Fell back asleep, and then it was like, even there again, it was so strong. And then I remember like rolling over, so now I'm like facing here, and then I fell kind of asleep again because I'm absolutely exhausted. It's like 2-3 o'clock in the morning when I stopped walking at this stage, and I then remember like lifting my head, and there's a massive black dog, just like, I'm talking like as close as the camera is to me now. And I remember letting out the strangest, most scared sound I have ever let out in my entire life. It was just a sound of like pure fear. But the dog ended up being really friendly and ended up sleeping on the pillow next to me that night. And while this journey was scary and hard, I think the piece that allowed me to get through it was just the amazing support and encouragement from friends and family. And then also the thing that just blew me away was the kindness and just the willingness to help and to be a part of this journey of the hundreds of strangers that I met along this journey. I know the first, like right at the beginning of the journey, when I was walking into Golden Beach, and like every single car just stopped to say, hey, can I give you a hand? And it was like a good 40-50 kilometer trek into this place. And over the day, like, people would say a person went to the town and left. They'd bring me drinks on the way back. When I arrived in the town, like at the local fish and chip shop, my food was already paid for. I was able to sleep. One of them offered me a bed for the night. And it was just like I was just welcomed into their family. That was the first people that donated, because I just started my donations for the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. And just their level of encouragement and love and just getting right behind me was just absolutely incredible. From people I just didn't know to then, hours later, I was just so into their community, part of their family, and just cheering me on in every way. The stories that I could tell from the people I met are absolutely endless. I'm going to flick through a few photos here just to recount some of the people that I met and the crazy journeys that some other people were on as well. Like this guy who was push biking from Melbourne all the way to Brisbane. Another guy who was raising money to build a skate park over in Laos, who was skateboarding from Melbourne all the way to Cairns, like over 4,000 kilometer journey. I met like a 97-year-old lady who was just off on a hike, like a hectic, coastal hike. And she gave me some amazing words of wisdom and shined my shirt. A chap who took me through this back shortcut through the mountains of the back of Sydney, to a couple who invited me in when I had no food left and gave me some sandwiches, and I met my nan and my auntie who cooked me an amazing lunch on the way through, to a nurse who one hectic night, my biggest night where I did like 63 kilometers, let me stay out in the foyer of the hospital and let me have a shower and everything. It was just like so amazing. Another couple this couple was just so nice. Like, I rocked up at this like petrol station. He was the owner of the petrol station, like a country petrol station. And he invited me back to his place, and his wife cooked me a mad meal and took all my clothes and washed everything, and they put me up in their spare room. It was just absolutely incredible. People that I'd just met like moments beforehand, to many friends who bought me food and gave me donations along the way. One of my friend's grandparents, I popped in and she cooked me this incredible, massive lunch, which fueled me on. And then just so many people who donated like along the way, and they brought me food and drinks. They just saw me, or they'd see me and then they'd see me again somewhere else, and they'd be like, boom, and they'd just give me so much stuff, helping out. It was actually just kind of nuts just how many people were just so willing to help. And on 3 separate occasions, from like one was 50, one was 100, and the other one was $500, I woke up to just like cash in my shoe, which I ended up donating to the cause. But just how many people had such big hearts and were just so willing to just get involved with this crazy journey that I'm on. It was just like, it kind of just like, it wowed me just to see, you know, you on a conceptual level, oh yeah, people are kind, but just to see how many people were just so willing to give it was so inspiring, and it fueled me so much on my journey. And then before too long, it was day 74. I woke up that morning, I had less than 30 kilometers to go, and walking up through the suburbs of Brisbane, and my finish line was the fake beach at South Bank. So I got to the fake beach at South Bank, and I caught up with, I hadn't seen my brother in about a year, so he was at the finish line. He'd kind of like seen my stories, and so he met me at the finish line, which was really beautiful. And then, yeah, literally splattered into the waters of South Bank, and then the ABC Studios was right behind it, so literally walked across, had a mad shower. Oh, one of the best showers I remember, just being like, ugh. I mean, kind of mad, but then also kind of like everything hurt at the same time. And then, yeah, just walked straight into an ABC interview, and then, yeah, over the next few days we got all the donations come through, and the journey was done. So a massive thank you to every single person who supported me along this crazy journey. From Mr. Bad and Bad Workwear, thank you so much. To the Indigenous Marathon Foundation, to be able to support you guys was an honor. And to all the friends and family which helped me with calls along the way, to every stranger that I met, everyone who donated, everyone who gave me food and helped me along the journey, thank you so, so much. So as a quick outro, I thought I'd dress up in the gear that I took on the walk. The shirt with all the signatures, my full protection, and then my rusty old, heavily tattered shorts. I've got my sleeping bag here as well, little one, 10 plus degrees, terrible idea. A backpack, which had all my drone gear and computer gear and mountains of food that I consumed, and a trusty little water bottle. So that's a wrap, and I'm going to start shooting a lot more of these type of adventures from the daily and weekly things that I get up to. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, and make sure to jump in the link below and donate.